What we're going to touch on briefly, let's see. Let's try to go for 10 minutes on this. Okay. The TERUMAH or the TERUMAH. What is a TERUMAH? What is TERUMAH? The TERUMAH is the contribution. Now the study verses for this is Exodus 25 verses 1 to 29. The TERUMAH, the study verses are Exodus Orit Ze'at chapter 29 verses 1 to chapter 27 verse 19. You understand? In order to understand the contribution, the dues. You understand? Paying your dues to society. Now the Haftarah, you understand, or the accompanying study is 1 Kings chapter 5 verse 26 to 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 13. According to the Tanakh versification. Then we have the Brit Hadasha, or the Hadith Kidan, the Hadith Kidan, excuse me. We also have the Hadith Kidan, the Brit Hadasha, 2 Corinthians 9 verses 1 to 15, and Matthew chapter 5 verses 33 to 37. Now, normally in the study, in our weekly Orit readings or studying, we're going to be focusing on this for a couple of weeks, because it's really going to be necessary to understand this in detail. You understand? Understand this in detail. Now, in the scriptures, we understand how the Israelites became the Am Kadosh. You understand? Or the Kedus, Yetekadesa, his a holy people, by entering into the Al Kidan, by entering into the covenant with Yahweh at Mount Sinai or Sinai. Now the terms of the covenant, which is like a contractual or the Al Kidan word agreement, they were written down in the Sefer HaBrit, you understand, or the book of the covenant, which contained a variety of laws to govern the people in the promised land. Now notice there was a variety of laws that we were given, so that when we enter the promised land, we could govern our own affairs. We would have self-governance. Now it's very obvious that the Rastafari community, you understand, especially as concerning Shashamani and concerning Ethiopia and the land gift of His Imperial Majesty to the black people of the West, that this was not followed fully, even though the original Shashamani land grant administrator and those early ones who went to Ethiopia, you understand, who exodus from Babylon to Ethiopia, were almost all of them were Hebrew Israelite black people. You understand, were almost all of them Hebrew Ethiopians or Ethiopian Hebrews in the origination of it. Now when many of the Rastafari came forward, he was in having the zeal for the King of Kings, having the zeal, you understand, for our biblical prophetic fulfillment, but being ignorant and sought to establish their own righteousness and did not submit themselves to the righteousness of the King of Kings, which is the Metav Kedus and his Mashihu and Getachin Jesus Christos. You understand? So what we're now looking at right here in this particular study of Parashat TERUMAH, or the contribution, we're looking at three sets of scriptures from Exodus chapter 25 verse 1 to Exodus chapter 27 verse 19, the Haftorah reading, 1 Kings chapter 5 verse 26 to chapter 6 verse 13, and the Brit Hadasha chapter 9 of 2 Corinthians verse 1 to chapter 15, and Matthew chapter 5 verse 33 to verse 37. But now, just to connect it to the context of what we're studying under the TERUMAH, the contribution, we're seeing that the Israelites became the Am Kadosh, or the Yetekadetsa, his, became a Kedus, his, a holy people, by entering the Am Kadosh, the Am Hara, you understand, the Am Kadosh, a holy people, by entering into the covenant with Yahweh, Yod-He, Vav-He, Waw-He, Malet, at Mount Sinai. Now the terms of the covenant were written down in the Sefer HaBrit, which is the book of the covenant, which contained a variety of laws. A variety of laws were given to the people, to this Am Kadosh, this holy people, you understand, to govern themselves, to have their own form of government when they reach the promised land. Now a lot of people ask us about when we're going to Ethiopia, and they want to go with us and such. Well, this is the first thing you need to digest. So let's get to it now, and let's start studying. Let's start pairing up, and let's start studying it. Let's have study groups and Bible studies so we can learn exactly what the requirements are, and we will not be confused or deceived or deluded, you understand, by any wolves in sheep clothing, so forth and so on. So you'll know, you understand, this truth, you understand, and we all can become accountable in this Hadith Kidan. You understand? Now, when the people agreed to obey the terms of the covenant, when they agreed, Moses took sacrificial blood and drew it on them, and threw it on them by saying, "Behold, the blood of the covenant that Yahweh has made with you in accordance with all these words." Musa then he reascended the mount to receive, to Kabbalah, you understand, to Makebel, you understand, Lukot Haven, the tablets of stone inscribed with the 10 commandments, and to learn additional Torah, additional Orit from Yod-He, Waw-He, from Yahweh, from the God of the Ibrawiyan, of the enlightened ones. You understand? So this is very important. Now we have the 10 commandments. You understand? Now if you have been studying the teaching of His Imperial Majesty along with us, you know how important the 10 commandments and the emphasis that the King of Kings, Negush Nagesh, Ethiopic, Qedamawi, Haile, Selassie, Abu Qudus, put on the 10 commandments. How important that is, you understand, to the King of Kings and his Christ. So now the parasha Terumah, it opens with Yahweh saying to Musa, Yahweh said to Moses, "Speak to the people of Israel that they take for me a contribution, that they take for me a contribution. From every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive Makebel, you shall receive the contribution for me." According to Orit Zezat, according to Exodus Shemot, you understand, chapter 25, verses 1 to 2. Now you need to study this. Exodus chapter 25, verses 1 to 2. Speak to the children of Israel.